the NGOs that are there are generally smaller NGOs, not the big players. And you can't be at the meeting if you're a for-profit social enterprise. That's not allowed. So that kind of situation where you've bifurcated the things into nonprofit and for-profit, and you've said, well, only the nonprofit solutions can be there, and we can't bring the for-profit solutions into the same conversation. To me, that's an example of one of the issues that we're dealing with. So, well, everybody's here. Why don't we start with the introductions and let Malik join when he arrives, if that's okay.
Introduce myself. I'm Dr. Bhatia. I'm the Regional Coordinator of Ayurveda Foundation of India, which is part of Ekal Abhiyan at our teacher schools, which was started 26 years back. And I have just joined it 4 years back. Before that, I'm from Maga, the city of Pali. And after graduating, I went home to tribal area of Jharkhand. Today is Jharkhand, at that time it was Bihar. Worked there for 5 years, then I did my post-graduation and practice for 10 years, and I worked with the Vanvasi Kalyan Ashram, a tribal organization working all over the country. And I was in Arunachal Pradesh with them for 10 years. Then tsunami came and I had to join the relief work in Andaman. I got a job there and I stayed there for 8 years. Then in 12, since 12, I am with Ekal Abhiyan.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Avnish Mata. Professionally, I practice as a chartered accountant. I volunteer for Ekal Arogya Foundation of India. I stay in Delhi, had all of my life studied in Delhi. My primary responsibility and role assigned to me in Arogya Foundation is to assist Dr. Bhatia in coordinating all our programs, monitoring the progress of the programs, as well as having financial control on the expenditure which is being flowing down to the ground area. So this is how my other responsibility assigned to me is to have as part of Ekal's overarching national team to coordinate and see that the strategies which are formulated, because Ekal primarily was into education, which has graduated into various fields. Dr. Bhatia is going to dwell upon that. To take and see that the Ekal movement's strategies are being implemented on health sector through Arogya Foundation of India.
I'm Sandeep Ahuja. I and my co-founder, Shelly Batra, started Operation Asha 9 years ago. We are into delivery of healthcare to the bottom of the pyramid markets. We work in 8 states in India, as well as in Cambodia with our own staff. We have partners across 7 other countries. Currently, we handle hemophilia, tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS, diabetes, and heart care. The idea is to ultimately expand this into a pipeline for all health services and products for the people and touch the lives of everyone in the 3 billion and the community across the country.
And Shelley would be with us, but her father recently passed away. So.
She's actually at the school for it.
Oh, she's at school as well. Okay. So.
To fly out.
Hello everyone, I'm Harish Ajiwa and I have done my MBA in marketing and I came here as a volunteer. So,
I'm Poonam Mutreja and I work for the Population Foundation of India, which is a 45-year-old organization set up by J.R.D. Tata. We work at the national level. We are the nodal agency for government, rather we are the secretariat for the NRHM on community action for health. So we work with the government in all the states across India on accountability by the community, and we have pilots, and we have the government has a special fund, so the states do PIPs, project implementation plans, separately from NRHM budgets, which we help them do, and then we give technical support to implement. So it started as a pilot, but now we are working in 22 states, and the other states we are beginning to work. So we do work at scale already. On that, then we are the technical support agency. We've been giving support for urban health, so we help the government design the National Urban Health Mission, and we've developed PIP guidelines and everything that's needed for evaluation, for quality, for vulnerability. So we do guidelines for government, and we work with the government. So we've trained about 300 government officials in the so that the implementation can be good. And another key area of focus of PFI is family planning, but we look at family planning in a broader social construct, which includes age at marriage, sex selection, empowering women to be able to make choices, engaging men. So we have been working on making grants, supporting pilots, as well as doing a lot of communication work ourselves. But recently, David, since you asked, which is the biggest scale-up that each of our organizations has experienced, in 2013 we started working on a national program called Main Kuch Bhi Kar Sakti Hu. It's a 360-degree program to reach women across the country, the poorest women. So we went to Doordarshan and All India Radio, so we have had 130 episodes. It's entertainment education, essentially, where we are raising all these issues that I just mentioned, violence against women included, anything that basically empowers women or is an impediment to empower women. So we launched this program in 2013, and at the end of 2015, we realized the government is launching RKSK, Rashtriya Kishori Swasthya Karyakram, where they've selected 8 million peer educators across the country, but there was no curriculum for them. So we decided actually to plan our last 30 serial episodes, and we worked with the government to design in 6 areas the program, which is given in cards to the peer educators. So it focuses on gender equality, sexual reproductive health, nutrition, addiction, and 2 other areas. So what we've done is we've developed curriculums with the government, which have been used by today 800,000 peer educators. So I would say that's unexpected, unimaginable for us when we started, but it's about spotting opportunities and being able to provide support. We were very clear that the government program will be another scheme that fails. So we thought we should provide the materials and do the training in a way that young people understand the issues. So we've developed a notebook for them, which has all the FAQs, most frequently asked questions. We keep giving more material to them, and it's done in a way that a young person relates to it, understands. And our approach is never to say in our serial or our programs, you do this. Young people and people do not want to hear from us going to villages saying, do this, do that, that's wrong with your community. So we use a positive deviant approach, which is we do case studies on successful solutions by the community, and then we add the drama and the tata to it and show it. So people identify with those solutions. Our solutions are not made by experts sitting in Delhi or even in Patna. They are what the community works on. So I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Yash, and I'm from Jaipur Drugs Foundation. And prior to this, I was working with a Silicon Valley-based IT company, Boutique Technologies. But sooner I realized that instead of working with machines, it is really happy and just working with humans. So I just make a move to Jaipur Drugs, and in Jaipur Drugs, I'm in the role of stakeholder engagement partner. And Jaipur Drugs has been working in 6 states of India now with 40,000 artisans. and most of our artisans are from the women from most marginalized communities. So Jaipur Lux Foundation's work is to dignify the life of our artisans and develop new artisans in handicraft and carpet sector. So I work across the breadth and depth of the activities of Jaipur Lux Foundation, and scale-wise I am looking to deeper the breadth of the Jaipur Lux Foundation activities. So as of now we are into skill development, skill upgradation, grassroots entrepreneurship development is an incredible project we have recently came out with the need to develop the grassroots leaders at the grassroots level, and we are also taking care of the social aspect, social threads of their life through our social interventions in health, education, financial linkages, government linkages. So I'm working a lot with government also to tweak in the policy that government has developed for the artisans at the grassroots, but they are not unfortunately reaching them. So yeah, this is how I am working, just as a facilitator to dignify the life of our 40,000 artisans. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Dr. Rishikesh Dambe. Actually, I'm a businessman. I'm a CEO of Antimed Pharmaceuticals, based at Bangalore, and we don't make generics, we make our own products. I'm here to represent Dr. Shivan Ganju, who is a chairman who is a founder trustee of Seva Mother Foundation, and I've been a founder trustee as well. He's a good friend of mine, so we've given him office, HR, admin, all the facilities. I have been implementing his ideas and in Seva Mother Foundation. And Seva Mother is present in Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, and Andhra Pradesh. We just started. Seva Mother works on reproductive and physical maternal mortality and infant mortality. Also, population stabilization plans, PFIs, happiness, and tuberculosis control. Basically, detection of tuberculosis more than treatment. So, of course, treatment is there. What we work is we activate people to utilize the available resources which is provided by the government of India or some other organizations. So we are at the grassroots level. We have somebody called Arogya Sakhis and the Swasthya Sakhis for every village, and who will who do the work, and all of them are volunteers. We don't pay them. Our organization is at the top nobody gets paid, at the bottom nobody gets paid, only the middlemen who get paid. So one organization where middlemen are good. And I would like to, Shivan Raju will be, he's online, and with your permission I'll ask him to talk.
Please.
Hi Dr. Shivan, I think you can address, it was me, I just introduced myself.
Okay.
Now you can address the gathering. I'll just tell who is here. Rather David will talk to you first.
Shivan, I think you can just go ahead and continue the Save a Mother introduction. You got a list of all of the folks who are here, so we don't have to spend time on that. Just go ahead.
I'm not the Skype. In case you guys want to see my face, but don't look at
Dr. Shivan, you can continue. Do you have an issue with the Skype? You can
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah, okay, all right. Is there any questions for me?
Just an introduction.
Okay, all right. I'm Shivan Ganju here, with the Seva Mother. Dr. Dambe representing us. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. We'll be back straight. And hopefully, if there are any questions, I'm available either on the phone or on Skype. Either way, okay.
Excellent.
And Dr. Dambe knows everything about Seva Mother. He should be able to represent enough for questions.
And we're glad to have both of you here. Dr. Amit?
Amit Nagpal, as someone used a very powerful phrase that social entrepreneurship has the mind of business and the heart of an NGO. So I think we offer inspirational storytelling services, which also has that combination, the heart of inspiring society, and the mind of brand building and building particularly your online reputation. So inspirational storytelling is the most powerful tool where you can influence the society as well as build the organization brand.
my turn. Finally. First of all, I would compliment all of you to take out time on a Navami day. Very happy and prosperous Ramnavami to all of you. And that shows passion about, in fact, your passion towards sustainable development goals leadership. And I knew that there is in fact, a list of invited people who are very committed, but I can see the passion coming out. And for me, I think you people have done wonderful work in your own field. And I had been an educationist, and my only passion had been bringing these students towards greater societal needs, connecting them with greater societal needs. And that's why one of my students is here, you can see that. In fact, after he was with me in one of the university where I had been for a long period of time. And I think I can say proudly that most of the students to whom I catered or mentored for corporate social responsibility, I used to tell them, corporate social responsibility has nothing to do with the books. It has to come from within. First of all, you have to show your individual social responsibility. So I had floated the concept of bridging the gap between ISR and CSR. So that took shape, and we did a wonderful job together in schools and universities. I have established the school. I think I have spent 27 years in the education field, and I'm a very new entrant in the field of CSR. So teaching CSR is totally different than practicing. So I can feel that. And then CSR is incomplete, it's an integral part, sustainable development. I had been in touch with David very recently, and we realized that so much things to be done. So right now, recently, my new portfolio is I'm working as a CEO of Educomp Foundation, and as you know, Educomp is the largest, supposed to be largest education solution provider all across the country, with 600 or more schools across, and 2 or 3 higher education institutions. So I address the students, and in fact I bring them and motivate them to get connected with the nearby villages, design projects for them, so that they understand their social responsibility very well. In this whole process, in the past 3 years, we have adopted a village, and we had been working in villages when I was in the university as well, and I was working as for the Lancaster University as well, and he was also there. So from there, many of the students have come forward, and they have got associated themselves with the village adoption plan. So of course, before Modi ji, we had floated this concept, Mera Gaon Meri Zimmewari. So the recent plan has been in Greater Noida and neighboring cities. A part of Bihar he talked about. I'm also now taking it up to Arunachal Pradesh, reported. In fact, I have been closely associated with Arunachal Pradesh as well in my long year of services. And in this village development plan, we had been focusing definitely on quality education, but then with a holistic approach. So education will remain incomplete when you talk about health and environment and empowerment, etc. So we had been trying to scale it up, and so we realized when the students started feeling that the need of sustainability and making it sustainable. So we had been in touch with David to make our projects more sustainable, and I would say that a part of that, recently we have floated our first CSR vertical with BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the convener of CSR vertical, CSR, Center of CSR and Sustainable Development in BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So a lot many things to go and lot many things to learn from all of you. So that's why I'm here. I'm sure the journey has just begun.
Thank you. And I echo Dr. Sushi's comments about making yourselves available on a holiday. The way this whole thing developed, this was the only day that we were doing so. Let me really kind of quickly cut to a frame for what I'm hoping we can accomplish today. It probably isn't what you were thinking we were going to work on. And there is a lot of potential. We just went around the room, and you guys gave more scale examples of scaled solutions than in all of the meetings I'm going to be in and was in yesterday. So in the discussion yesterday, they did mention, and you of course have to mention when you've been giving awards for 2 years, that some of the people who got awards 2 years ago are now scaling. But none of them were mentioned by name. And none of the examples of them scaling were mentioned. So what we had here was actual examples and actual scaled solutions, whether it's the single teacher schools or I, a Woman Can Do Everything, or the Jaipur Rugs employment of 40,000 women artisans. Those are real scale examples. And again, if you have real scale examples, you talk about them. You don't say some of our people are scaling. You actually talk about them. So again, there's this dichotomy between that kind of hope that somewhere we're going to discover this new thing versus actually putting together the organizations who've already scaled where they started and then figuring out how they can collaborate to deliver a new set of scale. So there's a whole set of work, and it's really hard work and it's really innovative work that you need to do to kind of figure out how best all of these things could come together and where a tuberculosis detection capability and a tuberculosis treatment capability could come together. ECHL has 9 triage centers, I think, that you're currently working with to try to support 100 villages. Almost everybody I talk to says we're doing support in each village. Well, if it's actually possible to use a triage center to support 100 villages, that completely changes part of the equation. So combining that effort with the idea that I, a Woman Can Do Anything, because I can't say the Hindi name, can basically present populations to your work who've already been catalyzed around a new set of thinking and a new set of conversations, which are the exact conversations that you want your people to be having. And then young women coming out of the schools, the single teacher schools, who you want to keep in the villages, can engage those conversations with a model like the Save a Mother model, or engaging with Jaipur in extending their health care. All those potential things that we could do together could create a complete new level of scale above what you've already done, which is phenomenal. So while I'd love to spend the next 2 hours on that, you have to do that. I really don't have much expertise there. I don't have that much to add, other than to just say, you have the stuff. You have the ability to put these things together, and when you do it, it's going to create a whole new set of stories that are the most scaled solutions in the world. Not just in India, in the entire world. There's more scale examples in this country than there are in any other country in the world. So that is a huge opportunity. And the work in doing that, you're fully capable of doing. You don't really need me, other than just to say, to do the next 2 steps, that work needs to be done. So what are the next 2 steps? So if you go to, I was just at the HBS Social Enterprise Conference, and Clayton Christensen, who's a very well-known academic and famous for his disruptive innovation books, gave a speech. And in his speech, he talked about the disconnect between all of the resources that are available and the movement of those resources into new markets and new solutions. So everybody keeps doing product improvement and cost savings. More product improvement, more cost savings. That cycles through. Each time you do that, you get more profit. But there's no place for the profit to go, because cost savings mean you need less of it. And product improvement doesn't need that much. So there's this whole, but that's why we have this massive pile. Malik, welcome, thanks for coming. Glad you could make it. So we have this whole pile of resources sitting on the sidelines. In India, one of the largest pools is the CSR money, that there's now a quote-unquote law. And if my impression as an outsider is that a lot of the biggest innovators in the corporate space are on the sidelines. They may have a few projects that they're doing, but they're not really working at scale in distributing that money. They're not really putting their resources on the table and saying, let's bring the people in this room even more to scale. They're on the sidelines. They're waiting to see, is it going to be enforced? If it's enforced, how will that happen? You know, what role we could play. It's reactive as opposed to proactive. So that's a big pool. That, you know, some people say $30 billion. I don't know what the number is actually, but it's a significant amount of funds. There are other pools like that, very unusual pools. And in the United States, we have what's called a donor advised fund. And people can contribute their money and get their tax benefit without deploying the money. The money just sits there. And that's money's managed by Fidelity and Schwab and so on. And Fidelity has $4 billion sitting there, and Schwab has $3 billion sitting there, and you know the list goes on. So that's a very unique pool of money that has certain characteristics of how you might try to access it. So this is a matrix. I do have a B-school background, so you'll periodically see a matrix from me. And it's a rather simple matrix. On the left-hand side, you have the answer to the question, not enough social enterprises is social innovation, or plenty of social enterprises is social innovation. And on the bottom, you have not enough money or plenty of money. So I think I've just answered the bottom question prematurely. Most people who work in this space think we're in this quadrant. They think we're in the not enough quadrant. The work you do in the not enough quadrant looks like the competition work that I just talked about. You know, competition seems like a great idea if you're in the not enough quadrant, because you need more, and they generally need to be found cheaply, and so a competition is a way to find more cheaply. So that's not enough work. The problem is, even if that's the right quadrant, we'll always be massively overinvested in that quadrant. And when you think about economics, if you're overinvested in something, the incremental value of the next investment is relatively low. That's the way marginal economics works. Why are we always going to be massively overinvested in that quadrant? Because every university in the world is invested in that quadrant. By the very nature of what they do and the fact that they work with students, they have to see the world as, we don't have enough, we need more. You students need to create more social enterprises. Let us help you do that. So we're massively overinvested in the not enough quadrant. I would suggest that this is actually the quadrant we're in. We're actually in the plenty quadrant. Now, it's not so much that the total number of organizations is the issue. The issue is that we have so many solutions that have been identified over the last 3 decades and beyond, that the cumulative total of those solutions is enormous. And next year, Skoll and Schwab and Echoing Green and Sandkalp, where I'll be next week, and Ashoka, and they'll all go and identify another 1,000. And they'll dump another 1,000 of those into that massive pool. So we're absolutely in the plenty quadrant. The work in the plenty quadrant is completely different than the work in the not enough quadrant. And we're massively underinvested in the work in the plenty quadrant. So the incremental value of moving resources into the plenty quadrant also benefits from the huge marginal economics value of investing in a quadrant where we're so underinvested already. And the work in the plenty quadrant, because very few people are doing it, very few people understand what the work is and what it looks like, and why when you show up to talk about a competition, Somebody who's sitting in the plenty quadrant views that completely differently than somebody who thinks they're in the not enough quadrant. And so now you start asking questions. Well, how many companies spent time applying to this competition? How much time did they spend? What was the cumulative investment of all those people to generate 5 winners or 7 winners or 10 winners? How much money did the winners get? I'll stop. I'm not going to go on, but you get the idea. So in the plenty quadrant, what you quickly find is when you start working there, you have very weird conversations. So what Rescale does, and the reason we have visibility on this, is we leverage the idea that a global network can see things that no organization can see. So we've built a global network that does that. We try to support you by bringing to the table views of the way you can do more that you as an organization wouldn't normally be able to see. And this is particularly true in situations where the organizations are kind of siloed. So you have the nonprofit world silo, you have the social enterprise silo, you have the corporate silo, you have the government silo. Because, again, organizations, to get beyond their silos, it's a big effort. And so they're generally not going to get beyond their silos globally. They're going to get beyond their silos where they are. So this is an opportunity to kind of see new ways in which organizations can work together that typically the organizations, even though they know each other, might not connect with, might not realize that that's an opportunity. Now, this is, not in total. I mean, Poonam and her team have already reached out to several of you. You're already having conversations about how I, a Woman Can Do Anything can impact how you would work and how you would work together. So this is not some brilliant idea that people aren't already thinking about. But the idea that that set of conversations could be extended into the United States, could be extended into the UK, could be extended into Turkey, and specific individuals in those countries who know nothing about this but are sitting on resources could begin to understand how those resources could deploy to create a new set of leverage and a new set of opportunities. So you can almost say, India has so much knowledge about scale. All these resources are sitting, some of them in India, but many of them outside. The ability to leverage the knowledge here requires a virtuous cycle. And that virtuous cycle looks like we find the pools that are most accessible. We bring a share of those pools in to create a new level of scale. Because part of the resources came from the North begins to get educated about the fact that no, they're not the source of knowledge and the source of all things good. This is a book that just came out, written by Ted London at, where is Ted? William Davidson Institute at the University of Michigan. So I can assure you that the University of Michigan folks think that they are the font of knowledge on many of these topics, and Ted wrote a book which says that. Now, I can tell you that I can read this book and basically say, these ideas would be useful for someone in the global North who doesn't have a clue to get educated so they don't make a fool of themselves when they show up in the global South. Yeah, that's a useful purpose of this, but this is not useful if you understand that the real innovations and knowledge about how you solve problems in low resource environments are in the low resource environments. They're not at the University of Michigan. So that virtuous cycle, then the knowledge begins to flow back to the North, and you begin to create pools of people who understand that, and now they can engage around thinking, okay, well, we need to get more of those pools moving. So when South Africa comes out with a study which says over the last 20 years we've wasted 30 billion rand on trying to deliver midday meals to kids at school. Now, everybody in South Africa who's read that study has said that's deplorable. That's a disaster. Why did we do that? But virtually no one said, where is the knowledge on how you would do that cost effectively, such that the next time we spend the money, we don't have that as the outcome? I can tell you where that knowledge is. That knowledge is in Bangalore. It's at Akshayapatra. And the idea that that connection doesn't get made that's where this opportunity is.
David,
Yeah.
one request, if you could sit in the middle, so.
Well, I'm going to move around. So anyway, so you can see why this basic frame is so important. Now, I'm not coming to you as a donor. I'm not a wealthy individual. I don't bring a huge amount of financial resources. I bring knowledge resources the same way you bring knowledge resources. So when you look at volunteerism, and ECHL is a phenomenal example of that, as are many of the other organizations here. In the North, we are not very good at figuring out how to leverage the talent of the people who want to volunteer, actually doing the kind of work that can be disruptive. And you're phenomenally good at that. So that's another example of knowledge that resides here that could go back to the North and could be extremely valuable in helping. And I'm not saying that the North is clueless. I'm just saying that the sequence, the virtuous cycle, has to be driven around the people with the most knowledge and the most actual scale experience. It can't start the other way. So the second stage, and so we started out with the idea that what we would do today is we would all put our operations on the table and figure out where we overlap and figure out how we could coordinate and figure out how we can leverage that. The fact that I'm saying we're going to skip over that. So the next step then is to say, what does the picture look like once that work is done? Not completely done, but preliminarily done. Done the way a social enterprise would do it. Here's what we think our potential is. Here are the best tests for figuring out if that potential is real. Here's the way we're going to work together to do those tests. Here's the way we're going to gather the knowledge and decide which things get invested in and which things don't get invested in. That kind of work that we do on the front end. And then we go test, just like any other social enterprise would work. That work then gives us the ability to create a second level. And that level is a huge step forward in sustainability that comes from co-scaling. So one of the first things we did is we went to Uganda. We had 2 social enterprises. They were doing, the main one was doing water, and the water funders had stopped funding them. And so the network that we work with in water, which is called the Blue Planet Network, asked us to figure out what had happened. And we came back and said, well, the world is finally figuring out that you don't just do water. And so the smart funders are not looking at water-only solutions anymore, and you can't, therefore, that's why your funders walked away. So they said, well, great, what should we do? And they already knew that they should be doing sanitation. We've wasted $1 trillion not doing sanitation at the same time we did water. They're not dumb. They could see that that was the issue. The problem was you can't raise money for sanitation. So they couldn't just add sanitation and get a sustainability improvement. So the question was, what do you add? And we spent a year looking at models. We sent proposals to 6 different organizations inside of Uganda. We got back 6 different CLTS proposals. Community-led total sanitation proposals. Every NGO gave us the same proposal. We looked at the economics of those proposals. We looked at the fact that they categorically were not women-led and were not good for women. And we said, that's not going to work. That's not a sustainable model if you don't have a women-led model in that space. We found a model in Africa called community health clubs. I met them at a conference in North Carolina, of all places. And we saw the work they'd done in Zimbabwe before the crash. And we saw the fact that a reasonable number of the villages maintained that work even after the crash. So the women-led thing really worked. because they kept running the thing after everybody was gone. So we brought that model to Uganda, and we added that model to the mix, and all of a sudden they could raise money for that model. Those women-led health clubs was something that we could actually get funding for, and then lo and behold, when you put those three together and you explain to the health clubs as part